Today on Body Slammed, I'm talking to my daughter Maggie. She has been through a whole lot with me and what all happened with our church. And if you want to know more about that particular situation, I've got some older podcasts that you can go back and you can check out and learn more about it. But today we're focusing on her and as a 12-year-old at the time, what she went through and how this affected her. Today on Body Slammed. So anyway, I've got a few questions that I'm going to ask Maggie, and I want to know from her. She knows that there's no wrong answer, and she can't get in trouble for any things that she says here. But we want to. She's 19 now, so it's been about 7 years or so since we went through all the stuff that happened whenever she was 11, 12 years old. So anyway, that being said, we're going back into some stuff that's pretty intensely personal for her, as well as for me. And I've been asked a lot of questions about how kids are affected whenever they go through toxic situations in churches, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and these came from some of my friends and even some that I had too, but I just want to see what you would have to say about this. Maggie, by the way, I love you.
Love you too.
How do you think that your view toward Christianity and toward Christ in particular was affected by my dealings in church staff work?
Personally, the hardest part was my whole thing with Christians as a whole, not certain ones. I just looked at all of them the same way, is that they were all hypocrites and they all didn't want the best for you. They just wanted what's best for them. And so me, I didn't trust anybody. I didn't want to tell anybody anything. I'll push everybody away because they were all just going to hurt me. And I partially blamed God for that because I felt like it was His plan for my life, and if He didn't want me hurt, then He wouldn't have done that to me. And so I quit going to church. I went when y'all made me go, but I didn't want to go. And I would go in, and then it would just be everybody there. Well, some of them were there for the right reasons. I felt like they weren't there because they needed to be with God. They just were there to go through the motions. And so just recently, I got to where I actually liked going back. But up until just recently, I didn't want to go at all.
Yeah, because that's been a long time ago. And this is something that you still deal with even now. Okay, well, if there was a do-over with all of the difficulties that we went over and that happened in the church, what do you think that you would want your family, and me and your mom and everybody, to do differently?
Probably just know that even though I was a kid, I said things and y'all wouldn't believe me because I was a child, but I knew what I was talking about at the same time. Like, I saw how those people were without, where y'all thought I was just saying stuff because I didn't like them, but really I knew and had seen how they were not around y'all.
So whenever you would try to tell us, we weren't paying attention because we were trying to find the best in everything.
Yep, and they're not like that. You just are mad at them, and I would know things and notice things that y'all wouldn't pick up on.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most difficult thing in the whole process? What's the most difficult thing that you dealt with? And, well, answer that first.
Most difficult thing? Having to start over going into middle school.
Moving, coming down here and leaving friends and having to make new ones?
Yep.
Whenever we were in the church situation and all that was going on, did you feel trapped there?
Of course, because you're the pastor's kid and you have to be perfect.
Do people look at you differently and expect different things from you than they did everybody else?
Yep.
Like what?
You have to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, act a certain way. Otherwise, they're in the wrong, or I was in the wrong because I was your daughter and I had to be godly and perfect.
Yeah. Did you feel like that you couldn't be yourself?
Sometimes. Not necessarily myself, but I felt like I couldn't venture out and do other things because I would be looked down upon for it.
Yeah. Did anyone ever say anything hurtful or judgmental to you during all that time?
I don't remember specifics, but I remember being hurt by things people said. I couldn't tell you now what it was, but that kind of came with the territory. They're going to talk bad about you or behind your back, and you're going to find out, but you had to live with it because that's how people are.
Yeah. And I guess every church has those kind of people in it. But I guess the last thing I want to ask you about is, what do you think, me as your dad, what do you think I could have done differently? Let's say that someone watching today is on church staff and they have a daughter that's 11 years old. What is something that I could or should have done differently to protect you more in that situation?
You did it, but it's just, as me, I had trouble getting through with what you were trying to tell me, but not lose faith in people. Because I didn't want to let anybody in, or still I have trouble with that. I don't like people coming close to me because I feel like you're just going to end up stabbing me in the back. And I had a problem with hate. I hated everybody. And you had to keep telling me, you can't hate the people, you hate the sinner, or hate the sin. And I still deal with that today. But just don't let them know that that's not, you can't stay mad at people over stuff like that.
Have you learned to love people again?
Yes, I think so.
But is it more of a cautious?
Yes.
Do you think it's affected how you approach new people now?
Of course.
Yeah.
I have my walls up, and I'll slowly build them down until they give me a reason not to, and I'll build it back up.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've noticed in my life is that I kind of go into relationships now expecting to be hurt.
Yep.
You know.
I do that.
Well, do you feel like you're coming through on the other side of it now?
Yes.
Well, good.
7 years later.
A lot of prayer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of working through it. Still going, still working, and it won't ever be the same.
And I'll still live with it. And those people, they might think about it every day like I do. They might not. But they'll be the ones that have to deal with it and be confronted with God about it, not me.
Yeah, he'll handle that. Mm. Well, I think you've done good. You've answered my questions good too. But I couldn't ask for a better daughter. I love this girl, and she's been right there with me through all this whole thing, and through the whole ordeal. She never, ever once made me feel like God had left me. She was always there with me and was encouraging, even whenever she didn't feel encouraged herself. So, anyway, I love you.
Love you too.
And thank you for joining us today on Body Slam.